Hello and welcome back to Chiefsman's Corner Live. This is a quick turnaround from our Saturday show or Friday show, but trying to get back on schedule with our normal Monday podcast. If you're not aware from episode 29, which I aired on Friday, we will be doing these on a Monday basis. This will be a live version. The next week's will more than likely be a recorded version. I am on Discord audio though right now, as well as YouTube comments tonight. I have the YouTube comments pulled up on my phone right here. So if anyone is around and available, I know it's an earlier start time. You can DM me in Discord if you want to get on the show live. If you want to just comment in YouTube, you are free to do that as well. I am your host, Coach Winuvas, one of the leadership team here in WFL and the coach of the Arizona Cardinals. This show, we're going to dive into Week 7 action. We're going to have our players of the podcast for Week 7, and we're going to finish up with an Ask the Chief segment, perhaps a little bit potentially of a soapbox situation. We're not sure yet. I may get into it a little bit. I don't know. If questions are available, I know there's a question available for our Ask the Chief segment. If anyone's tuned in, whether it's live or whether you're watching the recording of this, welcome aboard. Thank you for listening. Without you guys, the WFL and this podcast won't exist. First thing we're going to talk about tonight in our housekeeping notes, as always, is the WFL's incentive plan. This plan allows you to get some perks that aren't available for every member simply by doing extracurricular activities that involve WFL. Anything from Twitter or X, as it's now called, to articles on the Neon Sports site, to commenting or participating in this show. Even chatting in Discord can earn you experience points. Anything that makes the WFL a more immersive experience and increases its presence in the Madden community can earn you some sort of credit. Link to the incentive plan is available using the command /incentive plan, as all one word, /incentive plan in Discord. Next thing to talk about is our Ask the Chief form. As always, you can use this form during the week between episodes to submit any questions you have for me, and I'll answer them during the show, giving you credit for the question. It's an easy way to build up incentive points and provide extra content for the podcast. You can use the command /askthechief to pull up the form in Discord. That is also all one word, /askthechief, and it'll bring you the form that you can fill out to submit a question for the podcast. With housekeeping out of the way, let's go over Week 7 action in the WFL and highlight our offensive and defensive players of the podcast. And as we bring it up here and zoom in a little bit, starting out, let's see if I can get rid of this. There we go. We have the Seattle Seahawks having the visiting Arizona Cardinals into town and throttling them with a stout run game. 47-37 is your final there. The Seahawks move to 4-3 on the season, while the Cardinals fall to 2-5 in the NFC West. Chargers and Chiefs, a AFC West divisional matchup with the Chargers doubling up on the Chiefs. 42-21 is your final there. Smash Mouth FB33, the non-OG Smash, is at 4-2 on the season with the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Kansas City Chiefs are at 2-6. A little bit of a rough start for Banshee Man. I know he's been working a lot to start this year out, so he hasn't been able to focus as much on the game side of it. But I believe once he gets plugged in and gets work a little bit calmed down, I think he'll be just fine and dandy. In a barn burner, the Detroit Lions are beaten by the Baltimore Ravens 41-38, your final there. Baltimore moves to 5-2 on the season, while Detroit falls to 4-3. Another NFC North foe winning a game this go around, as the Green Bay Packers overcome the Denver Broncos. 39-28 is your final here. Green Bay moves to 2-4 on the season, while Denver falls to 5-3. NFC South matchup, between the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Atlanta Falcons put it to the Buccaneers. 35-24 is your final here. Atlanta moves to 5-2, second place in the NFC South, while the Buccaneers fall to 3-3 on the season. In an NFC East matchup, the Giants finally get off the schneid 3-game losing streak for Coach Cly. He finally gets off of it with a 3-point victory over the Washington Commanders and Coach Waffles. Cly and the Giants move to 4-3 on the season, while the Washington Commanders fall below 500 to 3-4 on the season. Buffalo continues their winning ways and undefeatedness by going to 7-0 with a 35-10 thrashing of the New England Patriots. The Patriots are at 3-4 on the season, and as I said earlier, the Buffalo Bills are currently undefeated and sitting pretty in the AFC as a whole. In a simulated contest, due to schedule conflicts and the fact that we changed owners, hopefully our new Eagles owner is going to be a little better about scheduling than our old one was. The Dolphins win the sim 28-14 as your final. The Dolphins move to 3-4 on the season, while the Eagles fall to 1-6. The Steelers get their first win of the season. It's good to see Coach Chill get his groove on against the Rams, who are just having a tough time in this first season with an honestly below average club. But Coach TJ Mack is making it work as best he can. He is 1-7 with the Rams on the season, while Pittsburgh gets their first win and goes to 1-5 on the season. Another matchup between South Division teams. The Jacksonville Jaguars of the AFC South lose to the New Orleans Saints of the NFC South, 41-31 your final there. The Saints move to 4-3, just squeak above 500 in a very tight NFC South, while the Jacksonville Jaguars fall to 4-3 in a tight AFC South. Game of the week action here as the Colts at 4-3 meet the Cleveland Browns, who were formerly the now current Eagles owner at the time of the game. At the time this game was played, 34-24 is your final there. The Colts and Coach Juke move to 4-3. The Cleveland Browns fall to 4-3, and the CPU is not a misnomer. Our Browns are now currently open after one game. Coach Ross has decided he did not have the desire to continue playing after all, so he's going to step aside. The Browns are now open. We're going to hopefully try and fill it out with a new member, if possible, in the next couple of days or weeks. Vikings and 49ers, Coach Rim dominating the San Francisco 49ers, 42-17 is your final here. Vikings move to 4-3 on the season, and the 49ers fall to 6-2, still leading comfortably the NFC West. And finally, Chicago Bears versus Las Vegas Raiders. I got to give a little bit of a shout out to the Bears defense. When I was doing research for the players of the podcast, I wrote down the Bears defense because they scored not one, not two, but three pick sixes in a 44-17 throttling of the Raiders. It was close at halftime, but apparently the Raiders let it get away from them in the second half, and Coach OG Smash moves to 4-3 with his Bears, while Coach Lamigra and his Raiders fall to 3-4, still competing in that AFC West. And that is it for games in Week 7. So now we're going to move on to our Ask the Chief segment real quick here as we jump in. We have one question on the docket, and it's one that I'm going to have to pull up some stuff for, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it up while I read the question. What is the best trade you've seen this year so far? And you'd know it'd be asked by the person who's done the most trading in the WFL by far this season, and that would be Coach Polio and his Seattle Seahawks. So I'm going to show essentially what I think the best trade is. And let me see if I can get it pulled up real nice and easy. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to highlight, of course I would have to highlight a Seahawks trade because they made the most by far. I'm going to go to this one here between the Seahawks and the Bucks. The Seahawks give up a quality linebacker with speed in Devin Bush and 2 picks, but they gain safety Antoine Winfield. That Legion of Boom rebuilt is coming into fruition quite nicely. You have Antoine Winfield back there. You have Jamal Adams back there, who can also legally play our sub linebacker position. So that gives him a safety that can fill in the box as a sub linebacker, which is always huge in Madden anyway. Devin Bush is a bit of a loss, but the guy was on a 1-year contract. Antoine Winfield is on the last year of his deal. But it makes that Seahawks secondary that much more potent and dangerous, having Winfield and Adams back there for pass coverage, and also having Winfield along with Quandre Diggs, who made the move to cornerback from safety. So he's got basically Quandre Diggs, he's got Tariq Woolen, he's got Devin Witherspoon, he's got Kobe Bryant, and I believe he's got another, he's got Breece Hall from the Jets in a separate trade. So Polio has a stacked secondary. Now he's got a lot of folks he's got to re-sign. So that's going to be an issue as far as cap availability going forward. But as we move forward with the years, that defense, at least the back end of that Seahawks defense, is built to last and is young and hungry, which is always going to be dangerous in the NFC West, especially as other teams maybe come back to earth a little bit with the 49ers with cap issues coming up in the offseason. Will they be able to keep all their players going forward? Who will they have to cut to make room? You could see the Seahawks kind of trying to make that jump now. They're sacrificing the future with picks for the present and some of the future as well by I'm thinking they're going to assign Antoine Winfield to a long-term extension as part of their 50% list. So that's a good deal for Polio. That's a good deal for the Seahawks as a whole. It's not a good deal for me because I'm the Cardinals, but I mean, who cares about that? I'm going to win 2 games a cycle anyway, and I've already won them both, so it doesn't really matter. That does it for this podcast. Now, I know that we're looking at the timestamp here, and we're seeing 10 minutes in. We did do a podcast just recently, so there is that in the tank as well. So this one's going to be a little bit shorter than I normally would do just because there's not a whole lot to talk about. I will state, though, the next podcast we'll try and get into some draft talk because we've just gotten our latest cusp of information on draft prospects. So that'll be a good time as well. Look out on the Neon Sports site for articles from Antoine Buckman, our draft guru, detailing the top 5 players at each position as we move forward towards draft season. Some of us are looking forward to it a lot more than others. I know I am for one because I do have 2 first-round picks. I have in the real-life Texans pick from the Will Anderson trade, or the Will Anderson pick trade, I should say. They picked Will Anderson with the 3rd pick in the draft that Cardinals traded him. And I also have my pick, and my pick's going to be pretty solid. And the Texans at this point is pretty solid, but I think he's starting to catch on. And I foresee that pick kind of going a little bit up the chain more than I would like, but I do think that's going to be a higher pick in the WFL than what I was hoping for. I was hoping for 1 and 2 because I was going to suck. And no offense to the Texans and Jay Burn, but I was kind of hoping he would be bad for at least this year, so that way I could use this pick well. But we're going to have some draft talk in the next one, and the next one will be a recorded podcast. So do be aware of that. It will be pre-recorded. I'll try and put it out around the 7 to 9 o'clock time frame Eastern, so that way it's on par with whenever I release these podcasts. But just be aware the next one will be recorded, so if you want to get any input on the next podcast, you will have to use our Ask the Chief forum, which I talked about at the beginning of the housekeeping notes, /Ask the Chief, all one word, /Ask the Chief in Discord. You can get that form, fill it out, it's real simple, and it'll give you access to questions. Any question you want to type in to ask, feel free to, and we'll answer it on the show. And give you credit for it, so that way you can get some incentive experience points for the off season, and hopefully getting those incentive tiers so you can get those extra perks we offer at the Pro, All Pro, and All Madden tiers. With that, though, we're going to move right on to the outro because, you know what I didn't do? I didn't say my players of the podcast, did I? So before I do the outro, I need to announce my players of the podcast. My offensive player of the podcast is going to be Seahawks running back Zach Charbonnet. He had 12 carries for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns, and probably honestly could have ran for 5 or 6 in a 47-37 win over the Arizona Cardinals. And my defensive player of the podcast, I'm going to give a shout out to the person who got his first win of the season, and Steelers outside linebacker Marcus Golden. 2 tackles and 2 sacks in the win over the Rams. So those are my offensive and defensive players of the podcast. I did forget to mention them during the segment, so I'm mentioning them now. So Seahawks halfback Zach Charbonnet, offensive player of the podcast. Steelers outside linebacker Marcus Golden, defensive player of the podcast. And with that, I'm going to thank you guys for tuning in, whether you were live or with the recording. I appreciate it. The WFL appreciates it, and we hope you are entertained by this show and all shows we do. Let us know by throwing us a like, subscribe, or leaving any and all comments. Any feedback, good or bad, is appreciated. And until next Monday, folks, with the recorded version of this, the corner is closed.